Greetings fellow gamers and welcome to another countdown. Video games of all kinds have all sorts of opinions. It's just how we mortals are like. Some people may love one game while some people also hate it. While I personally can't speak for everyone, if I asked any gamer if there were any games they didn't want people to know they enjoyed, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they said yes. I am one and the same. In fact, I'm here to confess my 10 biggest guilty pleasures in gaming. These are games I've enjoyed playing despite how substandard I find them to be. The only rules I have are one per franchise, and I'm ranking these based on how much I enjoyed the game compared to how bad I find them to be. Please keep in mind that this is my own opinion, and if you either love or hate these games, that's fine. Let's have a discussion in the comments. I have sinned, my fellow gamers. Let's get it on. When you got Nintendo as your daddy of all daddies, it's almost guaranteed to have some rough patches in the relationship, especially if you're the favorite child. Mario as a franchise is certainly no exception when it comes to this realization. The Mario RPGs in particular seem to have some of the most infamous examples. And I know what you're thinking, no it's not Sticker Star. How about the one that everyone forgot existed?
So that's what that feels like.
Real talk, does anyone even remember that Paper Mario had a Wii U game? I didn't until I came up with this countdown idea. Paper Mario Color Splash was initially hated for its many similarities to Sticker Star, and I honestly don't blame the haters. The story is just the same cliche shit we see in the core Super Mario series, which is such a shame because Mario RPGs have a tendency for having really good stories. But the battle system is where the three biggest glaring issues with Color Splash start. 1. Once you use a card to attack, it's gone for good. You'll have to constantly manage your cards to even battle, although you can get more cards from exploring or at the shops, so you won't really run out. 2. A lot of the boss fights can only be beaten with certain cards. There are some very hard subtle hints at which cards you need, but you'll mostly be going in blind and forcefully lose a fight because, oh, you don't have the right cards? Well, tough shit, mate. And 3, much like Sticker Star, there's absolutely no reason to battle. You only gain more access to paint for exploration and cards for battle. You gain no experience points, so leveling up isn't really a thing. Isn't that like the entire point of most RPGs? Gaining more experience to level up and become stronger? But no, you don't get that kind of satisfaction here. Making these battles pointless simply because gaining experience and leveling up could have easily been implemented. But the game isn't all bad. I really enjoyed the exploration and giving this world all its color back. The art style is colorful and unique, the game is very funny, witty, endearing, and lighthearted with its writing, and there's plenty to do, collect, and fulfill throughout your playthrough. Paper Mario Color Splash may have initially been judged similarly to Sticker Star, and while Color Splash has some similar aspects, I can't truly hate it. With so many video game generations and so many video games up for grabs, it is almost undeniable that popular and critically acclaimed games will contain a small number of fans not in the majority. It's just how us puny humans function. But as long as we can come to a mutual understanding of everyone's opinions, we'd be better off. Just don't make that opinion in your next tweet. That being said... well, I just went there, didn't I? Yup, and I definitely got no regrets.
You have no regrets?
Dad?
No? Like not even a single letter?
No way. Not me.
Well, I love him. I think he's great.
Shadow of the Colossus is a game universally praised for its artistic brilliance and its exciting boss battles. I decided to give this game a shot, and well, I can agree to disagree with the fans. Let's start with what I disliked. The camera was the biggest offender. It felt really finicky and awkward to control. Bad cameras in a 3D action game can outright ruin a game, and this was almost a deal breaker for me. The overworld also barely had any purpose other than to look all artsy. No enemies to halt your progress, no NPCs, no secret dungeons to explore.
What? What the fuck?
Yeah, it looks good, but there's only 3 purposes. Finding fruits for health, killing lizards to increase your grip, and connecting the boss fights. This game's already a boss rush as it is, so why is this overworld even here? The controls were also clunky and not fluid at all, especially when trying to control Aggro, who acts like he has a mind of his own and rarely goes where you want him to. You don't play games for realism, and art should never come at the cost of good gameplay design choices. That being said, holy shit those graphics. For a PlayStation 2 game, this looks amazing. Just the environments, art style, and the designs of all the Colossi look so freaking good! Music is another highlight of this game. It makes the environments more atmospheric and the fights more exciting. Speaking of which, the boss fights are also great. Climbing onto these giant monsters and striking them down feels so satisfying, even if only one is actively trying to kill you. It's such a shame, really. For as grand and epic as fighting these 16 Colossi are, I always find it really hard traveling to each Colossus in a barren wasteland with literally nothing to do. Now before you get mad, I can at least understand that this desolate land emphasizes the feeling of isolation and loneliness, which reflects the emotional and mental state of our protagonist Wanda. But on the other hand, this game had so much potential to be better, but at least I can still enjoy it to an extent. It's painful to see a franchise that has tons of potential go down the rocky history path like with Final Fantasy and Sonic the Hedgehog, but Crash Bandicoot is arguably the biggest offender of having a rocky history. At least Final Fantasy and Sonic kept getting games, despite certain games' quality. Crash practically died off until the fans spoke against Activision, and the Insane trilogy frankly saved the franchise. And that all started with this game, Wrath of Cortex. You see, after Naughty Dog's contract ended with Crash after the PS1 days, several other developers have tried taking on the mantle of continuing the Crash series, and Wrath of Cortex was just the tip of the iceberg. The biggest problem with Wrath of Cortex is that it suffers from an identity crisis. A majority of the levels that aren't the classic platforming just tried being different for the sake of those levels being different. Seriously, there's so many vehicle levels! In total, there are 9 vehicles you use, and most of the levels are vehicle levels. Like, I understand this game wants to try and be like Crash 3, but the vehicle levels in Crash 3 were primarily because of the time travel story and settings. Here, there's no point to them being here. At all. The presentation also took a dip. Like, just look at these cutscenes, the character animations, the music, the sound imbalance. Why is it all so forgettable and subpar? I get that this game was rushed, but the game looks so meh, level designs included. All the levels just look so boring and lack any kind of challenge, including the new power-up sneaking, which is really dumb. The story is also so by the numbers. Then again, what Crash game isn't? So what did I actually enjoy about this game? Well, for starters, the levels are actually pretty fun. They may lack challenge, but they play well enough to be a fun time. I also really like the idea of the elemental masks, mostly because of the star-studded voice cast that was offered here.
Your ass looks like about 150 pounds of chewed bubblegum, pile, you know that? Say it, sir!
The boss fights are also kinda neat. They're visually distinct and they're pretty fun by challenging me in a different way every time. Wrath of Cortex may seem boring, uninspired, and overwhelming, but the experience I had with the levels and the boss fights that play well enough gave me a pretty fun experience. Such a shame that the series is mostly a joke.
Harry,
What?
it's an inanimate fucking object.
You're an inanimate fucking object!
This still hurts even to this day. What happened to you, Rare? You were probably the king of games on Nintendo systems back in the 90s. You had so many classics that were adored by critics and fans alike. But then you got acquired by Microsoft. Why do I bring this up? Well, back in the N64 and GameCube days, Rare was to make a new game called Dinosaur Planet. But then Miyamoto and Nintendo stepped in.
Hey, your character looks like Fox McCloud. Let's make this a Star Fox game. But we wanted to make our own original. I said, let's make this a Star Fox game.
Wow, this game certainly is odd. I mean, you'd think that Rare at their prime and a franchise such as Star Fox would be a match made in heaven, right?
Well, yes, but actually no.
Star Fox Adventure's reputation has been a little up in the air, and I can honestly see why. For starters, you got this magical staff capable of so much, but the combat boils down to pushing down on the A button like a goddamn woodpecker. It's bullshit is what it is. Also, being half of this game's freaking title doesn't mean shit when there's little Star Fox to be shown here. Peppy, Slippy, General Pepper, Falco, Rob, the R-Wing gameplay. They're there, but are they really? No, they're not. Now usually, I don't mind backtracking. I love Metroid for God's sake. But here, there's no fast travel and it's practically embedded in the entire game, even early on. And the minigames are so bad and demanding, they'll give the original Mario Party minigames a freaking stroke. And, the boss fights could have been better. So yeah, this game is kind of crap. But I still enjoyed this game, and the GameCube meant business. This game looks really good, even to this day, with great attention to detail, wonderful atmosphere and environments and Dinosaur Planet, and good character models and boss character designs. The soundtrack is also just mwah! It's beautiful. Fox is fantastic as always, almost makes this purchase justified. Show of hands, who knows what you do in the Star Fox game that doesn't play like an actual Star Fox game? Alright, don't hurt yourselves. Quick answer, tons! Shootouts in space, speeder bike chases, spirit trials, scavenger hunts, dinosaur riding! There's a lot of variety and it mixes it up frequently. Being a Zelda clone isn't really a problem to me because, well, I love Zelda. Star Fox Adventures may have been a strange game, but strange is okay, and always welcome in my book. But, that cover art.
You sit on a throne of lies.
So Fire Emblem has my next game of choice. This sucks! Fire Emblem is currently my favorite video game franchise, so seeing a game from this series in a list like this kinda sucks. But I can't be a biased motherfucker, so I gotta pick one game from this series that irks me to no end, but I truly can't call it any worse than a guilty pleasure. Fire Emblem Fates. Originally, I was going to have Fire Emblem Binding Blade take this spot for its bullshit RNG and maps that make me want to go to therapy.
Fuck this level!
But Fire Emblem Fates has way too many more problems, both in-game and in marketing. Let's talk in-game bullcrap first. The story and writing are inherently a joke. Fire Emblem stories have a tendency of showing off moral gray in terms of the horrors of war. No side is legitimately good or evil. But then this game comes along and throws these morals out the damn window with a ton of stupid decisions these characters make throughout the story. Trust me, it's been memed to hell and back. The main protagonist is also as stale as plain bread and they never, ever change. Like at all. The weapons also don't have any durability, which sounds good on paper, but to balance them out, they nerfed some of the best weapons in the series to the point where you should just use iron weapons. The levels in difficulty are a mixed bag depending on which path you took. In Birthright, they're pathetically easy and lack any sort of personality. In Conquest, they're actually pretty well designed and more challenging, and the less said about Revelations, the better. Gimmicky as fuck, but not in a good way, and difficulty's a bit of both easy and hard. The support conversations are also a mixed bag, as you can have some deep, meaningful, and really compelling conversations. But on the other hand, some of them are just plain stupid. Yes, Hannah, of course it will be Corin's fault that we got kidnapped, especially because we were such a mere child that saw our father die right in front of us and had to go up against the titan brute of a king. Ugh, this game can be borderline insulting at times. Oh, and one more thing. Why on God's green earth was this game separated into two with the final path as DLC when all three paths fit in a single cartridge? What the actual fuck intelligent systems?
What were you thinking?
Even after all that, I still enjoyed this piece of shit. The characters really shined like any other Fire Emblem game, the pair-up and reclassing mechanics were fixed and improved upon, the overall presentation, art style, and music are all excellent, and the gameplay is the typical battle system us Fire Emblem fans know and love. I've never disliked any Fire Emblem game, unless its name is Shadow Dragon, and yes, it even includes this steaming pile of poo.
Yeah, dude, this sucks.
Development cycles are crucial in making any kind of game. If you're not given the time, money, and/or effort to make the game the best you possibly can, then chances are your end product will leave a lot to be desired. And this seems to hit BioWare more than we're comfortable with, as number 5 is possibly the most infamous example of a bad development cycle from BioWare. and it frankly kinda sucks that a Dragon Age game was the biggest offender. Dragon Age Origins is quite possibly one of my favorite RPGs of all time, but then its sequel had to make a terrible fate and completely forgot what made its predecessor so beloved in the first place. Dragon Age 2 seems like a side story more than a direct sequel, and that's a bit of a letdown. The story was the biggest downgrade by far. This game commits the atrocity that is the chosen one, or the only person that can save the day storytelling, and it's just blech. Don't get me wrong, this type of storytelling can be done right, but the way it's told here gives away any kind of suspense that may have been there because we already know where the story is going to end up. It's like BioWare tried to make things more mysterious, but it doesn't work. Another huge downgrade was the conversation options for our main character. Instead of having diverse things we could say, we now only have the options of being a douchebag, an idiot, or being way too nice. There's no middle ground. Why can't I just be a normal person? The dungeons are pretty bland as they mainly have multiple quests to one dungeon and it gets rather repetitive. Also, the number of enemies you have to take down in a single battle compared to the first game is ridiculous. Yet somehow, despite almost everything that's flawed here, it still kept me going. The characters, while not as interesting as in Origins, were still pretty interesting and got the job done. I didn't really mind the combat changes as the improvements made to the battles made them feel more intense and had me more involved, especially those over-the-top abilities and combat animations that you execute. The music was also really good for me as well, and the production values, while looking a little better than Origins, still feels a little average to me. Dragon Age 2 is a very odd case compared to Origins with a weaker story and characters, but improved gameplay and user interface. And to be frank, that's all I need out of a guilty pleasure. Here's hoping Dragon Age 4 is good. I'm sure we all know this story by now. Mega Man X5, according to character designer and producer Keiji Inafune, was intended to be the end of the Mega Man X series. Unfortunately, Capcom didn't appreciate a cash grab opportunity being wasted, so they made Mega Man X6 behind Inafune's back in less than a year.
Oh no.
Oh boy, we're now getting to the shittier guilty pleasures in my catalog. Even I still wonder why I enjoy these next 4 games. Perhaps I'm still not aware of the definition of insanity. Mega Man X6 does so many things wrong, you wonder why I like this piece of crap. First of all, the potential this story had was completely botched with some of the worst writing and localization I have ever seen in a video game. This one scene here can prove my point. This game's gimmick, the Nightmare system, while being an interesting idea on paper about going through one stage affecting others, was implemented more poorly than Federation Force's very existence. The level design is also, without a doubt, the worst of all the 2D X games. Needless leaps of faith, abundant death spikes, terrible placements for Reploids to be rescued, possibly losing an upgrade. The levels were all such a mess, including the boss fights. They were either so easy, tediously boring, or a frustrating nightmare. Though, I still see this game as a game that could have been legitimately good. X and Zero both played smoothly as always, so the game control's pretty great. The hand-drawn environments and animations along with the music is the kick-ass norm like always, and the story had a lot of potential, mainly revolving around the supposed main villain Gate. Hell, even some characters, particularly Aelia, got more fleshed out backstories, so credit where credit is due. The problem isn't that this game exists, the problem was that it was rushed. If legitimate time and effort were put into this game, then it could have actually been good. But given the situation at Capcom at the time, it's completely understandable. Regardless of what you all think about Mega Man X6, you cannot deny that this game has its ups and its downs. Why does Kingdom Hearts have to keep lying about previously established crucial plot developments? Don't get me wrong, I love Kingdom Hearts, when the story isn't constantly kicking me in the nuts. Case in point, Dream Drop Distance. In this game, you play as Sora and Riku at the same time. There's a gauge at the bottom that can tell you how long they have until you switch. Now, I can at least understand what they were trying to go for, tell the story from 2 different perspectives. It's an admirable idea, but I feel like Square Enix never decided to put their best foot forward. The switching is beyond annoying as it can happen during a boss fight, in which case you have to start over. Also, both Sora and Riku have different storylines, so you can be pulled out of one and inserted into another, so the pacing of both is even wackier than Mario Sunshine's physics. The individual storylines in the different Disney universes work, but the overarching story is so convoluted and stupid. Some boss fights are also such a pain in the ass. I'm looking at you, young Xehanort! Also, you had to play Tamagotchi to unlock abilities.
What?
That has got to be the stupidest way you can unlock abilities in this kind of game. At least the gameplay kept me invested a bit. The combat combined with the flow motion system was a ton of fun to just mess with. You traverse through levels and utilize your environments more here than in any other Kingdom Hearts game, which opened the door for a lot more options to spice up the traditional hack and slash combat. The game still has the classic Kingdom Hearts cheese, and the music is wonderful just like always. The story, while dumb, developed Riku in an interesting way with his relationship with Sora, and the worlds themselves were so creative and gorgeous looking for the 3DS. Dream Drop Distance was certainly an interesting experience for me. Come to think of it, this entire franchise has been an interesting experience for me, and frankly, I wouldn't want to have it any other way. Remember that weird phase in the 2000s where a lot of games were deciding to be darker and edgier? Some successes, many failures. Sometimes I just don't understand why so many games tried being darker and edgier for the sake of being darker and edgier. But for now, let's talk about that
Damn fourth Chaos Emerald.
After the mixed reviews Sonic Heroes gave fans, Sega decided to give Shadow the Hedgehog his own game, which sounded like a good idea. We could further establish Shadow's character in an interesting, compelling, and impactful way.
Nope.
Yeah, apparently Sega never got that through their thick skulls, otherwise they wouldn't have made Shadow the Hedgehog the way they did. On most accounts, this game flat out sucks. The story has so many branching paths determining Shadow's fate, but the execution is not only flawed, but also partially contradicts Shadow's already established character. The missions are so poorly structured that you can accidentally make progress towards one mission when you're trying to complete another. The characters that were introduced were either bland, forgettable, or boring as hell. And there's hardly even a good boss battle in this game either. Fuck you, Egg Dealer, and fuck you, Egg Breaker!
You know what they say, the more the merrier. You know what they say, the more the merrier.
Shut up and sit down, you big bald fuck.
So, what could I possibly enjoy from this piece of shit? Well, the gameplay, honestly. I didn't really mind the guns. I had no trouble controlling them, and they at least shook the gameplay up a bit so I can appreciate the effort of trying something different. The controls may have been a little loose at times, but it mostly felt really good and similar to Shadow's stages from Sonic Adventure 2. The soundtrack isn't half bad either, especially the songs All of Me, the main theme, and Chosen One. The graphics also weren't too shabby for GameCube standards, though the environments are a little bland. Shadow the Hedgehog took risks with how they wanted to establish Shadow's character. While the attempt was completely botched, look on the bright side. At least this Shadow is better than Sonic Boom's Shadow. Though I wonder what was going through players' minds when they first encountered this crapshoot.
What's that? There's an opportunity to redeem Shadow's established character and sympathetic backstory after being completely botched in Sonic Heroes? What could possibly go wrong? God damn it, Sega. Why do you have to torture us with your stupidity?
But I've got good news. You see, there's no need to wonder where your god is. Because he's right here. And he's fresh out of mercy.
I've been a huge fan of the Metroid series ever since I was a kid when I first played Metroid Zero Mission on my Game Boy Advance. The series has always been a favorite of mine. The exploration, the upgrades, the music, the boss fights, so good. However, one game in this series has haunted me for all these years. Team Ninja, what were you thinking? I'm sure a lot of you are raising your eyebrows right now since a lot of people hate this game. And I mean hate this game. I'm going to be honest, a lot of the reasons for hating Metroid Other M are completely justified. The story? Boring, predictable, bad writing, bad voice acting, monologues up the ass, and outright stupid decisions from all our characters, even Samus herself. The less said about the baby, the better. Why wasn't an actual writer hired to write this game's story? The exploration? Why is this game so linear? It defeats the entire point and purpose of a Metroid game. The controls? Couldn't we have just used the nunchuck's control stick to move around in a 3D environment instead of the D-pad? The music? Completely forgettable, except for Ridley's theme. Mechanics? Okay, not everything is bad, but using concentration to restore health and ammo, the walking sections, the search segments, and the way authorization was used to get the upgrades like the Varia suit was just dumb and unnecessary. So, why? Why would I enjoy a game that's completely and blatantly flawed? Well, this is still a Metroid game after all, and what it does well, it does really well. I just had a lot of fun with Other M. The gameplay, certain bad mechanics notwithstanding, was pretty innovative and exciting to play given the first and third person perspectives utilized. The game looks amazing for Wii standards. The boss fights are some of the best in the series, and the sheer satisfaction of taking down any enemy with your new flashy combat animations just feels so good. And finally, while the execution was meh, I can at least understand Team Ninja and what they were trying to go for in their portrayal of Samus. Although I consider all these games more bad than good, I can never truly hate these games. And Metroid Other M does this the best, despite how reluctant I am to say that. For what this game does well, it allows me to have a fun time with an overall shitty game, which is why Metroid Other M is my biggest guilty pleasure in video games. This has been Kdog. I wish you all have a great day, and Retro, it's nice to see you back in action. Please, I beg of you not to screw your newest project up. We're counting on you, Metroid Prime 4. Hey everyone, Kdog here. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and be sure to share the video around. You can also check out my Twitter, and consider donating to my Patreon to help support the channel and make these videos possible. Anyways, that's it for me. I'll see you all next time. Kdog signing out.
It's not a